So you don't want people being double counted. Could that happen, that somebody, the students unknowingly fill out that questionnaire and the parents include them on their questionnaire as well? Then are you double counting people, or how do you account for any issues like that?
We have a sophisticated software and hardware that actually they combine and cross-reference name and addresses. That's why we have name, address, and date of birth.
So it cross-references
Right.
the forms, so you would know that somebody
Right. And
completed the questionnaire
right, and
twice.
that's where the phone number plays a role, because if you have a phone number, they can actually, when they have a cross-reference, they go and check it. Well, do you live, to verify the address, have you lived at this address or this address? Because the census count on April 1st, 2010. At that date, where do you live, where you consider yourself living, either at the dorm or at your parents' household. So that's actually what we counted
Right,
for.
and we have in Bloomfield Township, which I'm sure you'll encounter, we have people that live 6 months here and 6 months someplace else. So I'm sure that that's going to be a decision they're going to have to make, where they're going to be counted and in which state. But you make sure that they're not double counted.
Right.
That's nice to know, because I understand that it's really important to stand up and be counted in terms of the significance of the census. What does the census do in terms of, what are the ramifications for municipalities across the United States?
Right. The Census Bureau, after the 2010 decennial, gathers all the information and puts it on the president's desk to, I believe it's February 2011. And then after that, there'll be reapportionments of congressional districts, which also affect municipalities, counties, and the state of Michigan as well. As you know, people have been talking about losing people, so that's why it's very important to answer the questionnaire as to how many people really do live in that household. And going back a little bit, is that because of the foreclosure crisis and unemployment and whatnot, we'll have some individuals that may be living, for example, with their parents, or they'll be living with friends or grandparents or what have you. And it's very important to get those people counted as well. So if grandparents do receive a questionnaire, and if it's just the two of them, however, they've got their son and maybe daughter-in-law or something, living there, we want those people to be counted as well. And as we said before, the confidentiality issue is that we don't share, Census Bureau does not share information with Labor Department, immigration, FBI, CIA, nobody. So since 1790, that the Census Bureau has been conducting the decennial census, they have not shared information with any other government agency. So that's very, very important to know, that if you do have additional persons living in your household, please put them on the questionnaire, because it's very important that they get counted. And then in addition to that, I can have maybe Eddie talk about the $300 billion that we distribute annually.
Is that an economic stimulus, or what?
Oh, no,
What's $300 billion?
Usually, as my colleague said, our forefathers, when they wrote the Constitution, they put it on the Article 1, Section 2, as a base of our democracy. And the reason for that is, in order to build a democratic country, you have the right representations. And in order to make the right representation, fair representation, you have to have an accurate count. So this is the first and most important items on it. Then you have, as she said, about the apportionment of the Congress. The third part is that as a part of the federal government, that's not a stimulus package, this is a yearly budget. By the average about $300 billion, that money from the federal government comes to state and counties and other municipalities down in terms of funding. Some of them are matched, some of them are not matched, some of them for certain programs. All of them, without exception, they are based on the population that area actually has. So it is important for everybody to count, to get the right representation and position our communities in the right place for them to receive their funding for that.
So I want everybody in Bloomfield Township to stand up and be counted, so we can be sure that we get enough funding. And
Absolutely.
we also are, when we are reapportioned in terms of federal districts,
Right.
you know, that'll count too for how many senators, how many congressmen
Represent
that,
the interests of our
that
state.
represent us. It's extremely important. Well, we are, believe it or not, running out of time.
Wow.
And I just want to ask you if any of our listeners need further information, if they need brochures or they want more information, where would they contact you, Mike? How would they contact the U.S. Census Bureau?
Well, they can contact our Detroit regional office in a couple different ways. The easiest way in this time of technology is to go to www.census.gov.
Census.gov, that's easy to remember. Is there a phone number that they
Christine?
could contact too?
Yeah, that would be the Regional Census Center, the 2010 Decennial Center. It's 313-392-5200.
Okay, 313-392-5200 or
Yes.
census.gov. We can
Yes.
remember those very
Absolutely.
easily. And all of the information that we've talked about today or any other further information they need, any brochures, would be available on that website, correct?
That's correct.
Absolutely.
Well, this is great information, and I'm sure that our listeners will have more questions because this only happens every 10 years, and it just gets getting bigger and bigger and better and better. And I want to thank you for coming here to the studio today to inform us, to elaborate on what's going on in 2010. And we are less than a year away from
Yes.
March of 2010 when the questionnaires are going to be sent out, correct?
That is correct.
So we'll tell everybody to look forward to that. And I want to thank you for coming.
Thank you for
It's
having
nice-
us.
Nice to see you.
Likewise.
Thank you, Ed.
Pleasure.
Thank you,
Thank you very
Christine,
much.
and thank you, Mike.
It's been a pleasure.
And I do want to mention that we are always fortunate to have our furniture for the show from Hillside Furniture. So please stop in there and tell them you saw their leather couches and rug, the leather couches and the rug here at your service. We look forward to, if you have any questions, to contact census.gov or their phone number. And remember, this is At Your Service, and we'll see you next time. I'm Jan Roncelli, Bloomfield Township Clerk.